So I was sentenced December 2022. It was quite a long hearing. I remember being in court with my head down pretty much throughout the whole hearing, as I knew there was a high possibility that I was going to get a custodial sentence. But I was relieved ultimately. I was given a probation order, a community service order. I was given a fine and a suspended sentence. So what I remember about when the judge was talking to me, addressing me in relation to the fine, all I remember the judge asking me was my ability to pay the fine or something along those lines. And my response would have been, I can pay £50 a week. Well, in fact, the judge may have asked me about my income and employment status, but it would have been just a question. I don't think he really asked me in any detail. And I certainly wasn't given any kind of expenditure form to fill out. And I don't remember much more about. There wasn't really a huge focus on how to pay the fine, who to pay the fine to, when the fine will start, when's the first date of the fine, was there an end date of the fine, is there a period that I had to pay the fine in between? There was none of that. On the days after the sentence, and perhaps the weeks after the sentence, I began to become a little bit kind of concerned on what am I going to do about this fine, because there literally was zero information on that document I received when leaving court on how to pay the fine. Zero. So yeah, that was a little bit of a worrying period. It was an issue that was, if not addressed, was going to be problematic. I remember speaking to my probation officer and mentioning in one of our appointments that I hadn't paid my fine. I hadn't even started paying my fine. I told her that I was quite concerned, that I was worried about the fact I hadn't started paying it because I didn't want any repercussions. So during that appointment, she made a couple of phone calls to some professionals that she thought might be able to advise. There was no success with that. She then had a second thought and asked me to pop into Highbury Magistrates Court and look for an organisation based within the court called Community Advice, which I did. I think it was about mid-January when I met Michelle. This was a really good thing. I say that because she made every single phone call she possibly could. I remember that meeting. Michelle and I were probably together for about 45 minutes in that office. It was all negative. We didn't get any further in any of her inquiries. My name, my fine, my existence was void. The system had no idea on who I was. I mean, to be quite honest, I actually remember looking at Michelle when we were coming to the end of our phone calls and our inquiries, and I was, the little sort of like, should we say, the little cheeky character in me. I was like, listen, Michelle, great, thanks for your help, but I'm up 400 quid now. I said, at least I can say that we tried to pay the fine. I realised that if I had allowed that cheeky side of me to manifest and walked away without paying the fine, a year later down the road or 18 months later, it could have possibly caught up with me and I could have possibly ended up going to prison for not paying my fine. That process repeated itself, Michelle and I meeting almost monthly up until about May, when Michelle got hold of me for the final time and said she'd managed to sort it out. So that was about 5 months after I actually received my court sentence that we finally got to a stage where we knew who we had to pay the fine to and how the fine was going to be paid. I just want to add a bit to that because, to be quite honest, I don't think there's any way on this earth that I would have had the capacity, the patience, the intelligence, the know-how, all the resources to do what Michelle did. And the only reason I'm actually paying my fine now is because of the level of help that Michelle offered me throughout that 5-month period. Fast forward, my fine has been paid in its entirety, which is obviously a really positive thing. Again, I would like to say paying the fine is a process of making a phone call. There's a lengthy automated introduction with a variety of options before you actually get to speak to someone. I had to do this, make this phone call each month throughout the several months that it took to clear the fine. Certainly on the same day or on a day prior to the given day of each month. I think personally, it would have been easier if they could have set up a direct debit for me, but that option was not available. I remember asking. It was quite stressful. It was quite a stressful period, if I'm honest. Stressful because, well, it was my main problem that I had after I received my sentence. The main problem I had was paying my fine, and I'm not sure if I would have managed to pay that fine in its entirety if not for the help of Michelle and Community Advice.